All right, thank you. I think now we will open it up for questions. I can go ahead and ask the first one, actually. I guess this is more, I mean, obviously we're seeing IT, you know, or technology essentially hitting all of our job functions every day. And Allison, you touched on an ROI evaluation, and sometimes it's easy to do, sometimes it isn't. But do any of you have a process, even if you're looking at a CRM tool or business analytics, and you got 3 choices in front of you, do you have a process that you typically use in regards to evaluation for picking the best one? I mean, outside of ROI, or is this, you know, there's the ROI you can do, but then there's also the soft feedback you can get in different things. Do you have anything that you live and die by? Because sometimes those can have some pretty hefty price tags on them. And if you make that wrong decision, it can follow you around for a while. So do you have any advice on that?
It depends, I guess, on the application. Like, we just recently rolled out an online CRM, and based on what their habits before, we knew that we're kind of iffy about, are we going to spend a lot of money? Are we going to get something that integrates with our ERP? Are we going to get something that stands alone? Do we start with one particular application and then grow into something else? So it really does depend on what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, and the people who are going to be using it. So we ended up just getting a CRM that did not attach to anything. I can export the data out. I can manipulate the CRM and change it if I need to change it. But we wanted to see how well it would be adopted without spending a lot of money. So, like I said, it depends. And in other applications, we'll send out questions to people and ask them, what do you want to see? What do you need to do? What do you want to do? And then we'll look at the solutions and kind of pick out the best one and maybe get demos on them and let people test them out and see how it works, and then go on what everyone's opinion is about that particular piece of software, and then make a decision based on that.
For us, shameless plug to this conference is that I'll take back what I hear people are using. One great example is SharePoint. Last year, border states implemented SharePoint. I don't know if it was in the last year or the year before, but I just remember them talking about it a lot. And as we were trying to replace our internal site, it kept coming up, and I was just like, well, the people at border are using it, and it's all collaborative. And then we were able to reach out to other people within the industry because I learned who was doing it. And without that, working with IT, sometimes they're not necessarily out in the field networking with a bunch of other distributors, so they're just basing it on their knowledge, which is great. It's a great mix to bring what the industry is doing and what others are doing, so you can have proven success and people to rely on learn from mistakes that way. I use that as a great resource when I'm trying to figure out tools to implement.
For the companies that are using 2 or 3 forms of social media, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all 3 of those together, how long does it take a moderator or someone within your company to manage that on a weekly basis?
Go ahead. Well, running the marketing department, I do have a person that manages that. And he can go on vacation and we can still update every day. Because we do use Hootsuite, and when you have somebody who is very engaged in social media already and likes to use Twitter all the time, it takes no time, right? It doesn't take him any time to find great content that he wants to share, because if it's me, I'm like asking 3 people, is this what I should tweet about? Is this cool? But he's so used to sharing stuff like that it's like no big deal. There's no indecision, and he's like, hey, this supplier said this looks great, I'm going to feature that. It takes him about 15 minutes a week, and I tell him that you can spend 15 minutes a week on our social media stuff, and that's what I expect it to take. It's just like nothing. We do blogs, and I expect him to do blog posts twice a week. Those I allow 4 hours, I don't allow, but I expect it'll take 4 hours, and that's asking, getting feedback, talking to an engineer, that's gathering the research and writing, and sometimes that allows for people getting back to him. So.
I think the perception is you've got one person that's all they do all day is sit at their computer and they think up something, okay, now I'll type that. But with Hootsuite, you can schedule out, I want to tweet something every 8 hours, and this is what I'm going to say here, and 8 hours later, what I'll say here. Now, the social aspect of social media is it's not just a megaphone, right? It's not just blasted out to everybody. There's some interaction there. So it does require you to be listening to what other people are saying as well. And it sounds like Jena's got a good example where she spends a certain amount of time planning what they're going to say and much, much more time listening to what the customer is saying in response.
Kind of building on what you guys just said, I guess there's a little bit of trial and error that goes into determining how frequently you need to update or post something to keep things from going stale. Or, I mean, I know I've gone on to different LinkedIn sites or just things where companies will post something and there won't be any more activity for months, in some cases over a year. I guess, like I said, there's probably a good degree of trial and error, but have you guys found a kind of a happy medium? And if you did, how did you figure out, like, yes, this is what works, this is appropriate, as opposed to this is too much or too little?
To be very specific, most of the companies that I follow, I'll keep following them if it's 3 times per day or 2 times per day. If they're tweeting something every hour along with the other 150 people I follow, then it's that information overload and I don't follow. Then you've got other international, national companies, multi-million-dollar companies that tweet once a year. And that doesn't work either. So I think if you have a plan to tweet 2 to 3 times per day or post something, and again, you can link those together to where if you put it on Twitter, you can put it on Facebook, you can put it on LinkedIn, and so you're not having to go from platform to platform to platform. But in my opinion, generally 2 to 3 times a day is most effective.
My expectation is that we tweet once a day, and then I think we do like twice a week on Facebook, and then interacting, and they do a lot of retweeting and stuff like that. And but it's also, and this might not be the best answer, but you also have to follow your gut, right? If you are actually active on social media, you know what's the right amount. So and that's the whole reason why I made the initiative for us to be present, is because it only takes, I mean, if you want to set up a social media account, Joe can help you during the live stuff. It's going to take you 3 or 4 minutes depending on your network. And then all of a sudden they're looking at your company, right? And they're making an impression about you and your organization in those first 3 minutes. And it said something about you. And so for me, that's what I said. It's like, do I know that it returns business? I don't know. Are my customers following me? You know, maybe a few. Does a sales guy retweet what we tweet? Maybe 1. But it only takes somebody 5 minutes to come and find us, and then they make an impression about us. And I wanted to show that, you know what, we are listening to what's going on in the world, and that we are active, we're present. And it's just another way to build relationships. You hit it, it's about interactions. And so some people are friends on Facebook, and that's how they foster their relationships with their customers, and they can stay in front of them that way. It's no different than going fishing or going golfing to some people. You know, it's just that basic, you know, being in front of your customers and being present. And I think that that's what's important when you think you take it all out. That's how it goes. So.
John, you said in your presentation the security aspect. Can you give us an idea what security measures we could take, or apps or websites that would direct link into a phone, an iPad, that would wipe it clean, that maybe you use as a company?
Yeah, sure. Anybody who uses Google applications, your Office 365, and even any Android device, right? And I guess to your point, right, it's very important that you have the ability to wipe a user's device when they hook into your system. But if you're Office 365, or if you're running Google applications, or even just the Android control panel, iPads can do the same thing, although as a personal level, it's harder to get at that as an administrator. But any one of those has a built-in mechanism to remotely wipe a device. So we had the parting of the ways with an associate a while back who was actually a partner in the company, and he came in one morning and said, my email's not working. I don't have anything left on my tablet. You know, we can control that stuff from them. So it's usually inherent in the device and in the OS. You just might have to dig a little bit to get in there, but if you're using any kind of a Exchange or Office 365, it's in